kitchen. Recipe number 3 is meggyes pite. I think we could translate it to cherry squares. The ingredients are, for the dough, 4 cups of unbleached flour, 2 sticks of unsalted margarine, 3/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon baking powder, 1 egg yolk, and 1 cup of fat-free sour cream. For the filling, 3 15-ounce cans sour cherry in water, 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs, 3/4 cup of sugar, and cinnamon to sprinkle. I already made the dough because it has to rest for 2 hours. This was the best way to show it to you. I made it by putting flour into the big bowl and cutting in the margarine that was cold. That is important, that it would be cold, into the flour, either with a pastry knife, which looks like this, and most of you have this, I'm sure, or if you don't have it, you can use 2 knives and just do it like this, mix it. The reason for that is that we really do not want the margarine to melt, and it keeps it cold. It is something like a pastry dough for pie, so you don't want to have the margarine melt in it, and that's the reason why you would use the pastry cutter. Add all the rest of the ingredients, which is the sugar, the baking powder, egg yolk, and the fat-free sour cream, all at once. And I quickly kneaded it together. Again, the reason for doing it quickly and not working it very hard is because we don't want it to melt, the margarine to melt. Well, after it was done, it wasn't very smooth on the top. That's okay. You just shape it into a bun-like thing like this. And then I let this rest for about 2 hours. If you have to do something, go to shop or whatever, you can just leave it there on your kitchen counter. I covered it with saran wrap. Now after 2 or 3 hours, no set rule really about it, but maybe 2 hours is minimum, then you have something like this. Now I floured the cutting board, and I'm going to cut this into 2 halves. And I'm going to roll out 1/2 of it and put it into this size of pan. I think it's 9 by 13 or something like that, maybe 11 by 13. Set this aside and roll it up. Now, it helps if you have a little flour on the dough too, because it is kind of damp. So, you don't want it to stick, because then it's harder to work with. Kind of shape it again to make it look like a rectangle and roll. And I turn it over. Don't just roll and do it on the same side, and I try to keep it kind of that rectangle shape if possible. Oops, that was loud. There. As I told you, this rolling pin is quite heavy, and it helps a little bit because you have to use less weight to roll this out, but that makes the noise. Now I kind of roll it out into an even thickness. Doesn't take very long. I'm just keeping in mind that it's gonna go in there. So and this one doesn't have any yeast in it, so if you have your air conditioning blowing out air on it, it's not the big of a problem. Actually, it's no problem at all. Okay, now I'm going to just see whether this is big enough. So I lift up my pan and go. And yeah, I think it looks just fine. Maybe over here it needs a little bit more rolling. Now, in order to put this in a pan, I just lay down on one side a rolling pin, lift it up gently, like this. Isn't that nifty? And then roll it back, like that, into the pan. Now we can check how this fits. Has to move a little, it looks like. There, you can just push it with your finger. This is a very forgiving dough because when it was resting, it had a chance to stretch out and the ingredients went together. If you have extra like I have here, you can just cut it out and then put it into a corner. See, nobody's gonna see the bottom and it doesn't matter. There. Make sure that it's kind of everywhere. There. Okay, there we go. It's all done. Looks like this. Now, I drained the cherries already. Went to the sink and just drained it out. In Hungary, when we had fresh sour cherries, you would save the liquid from the cherries. And I remember when I had to pit it, each pie, take the pits out of there with my fingers. It was kind of a messy job, but it worked. And usually didn't have to worry about worms because they were sour. They didn't like it. So the other cherries were worse. So and I kind of just drain it again just to make sure that it is, most of the liquid is out anyway. But before I do that, I'm going to use approximately half a cup of breadcrumbs. And I'll show you why it's approximate. I measured it out before. It's just about half a cup. But this is what you want to do. You just want to gently put unseasoned breadcrumbs on the bottom. And that again will help to absorb the remainder of the liquid or the water that the cherries were in. So you just, you just shake it like this. That's fine. Don't have to measure it. It's just make sure that the bottom is kind of covered. I just gave you the measurement to know about how much you need in case you have that much at home and you don't want to run to the store. It doesn't need much more. See? There, now it's all covered. Now we can put the cherries on top. And it's just one layer. So all you are aiming for, and if you find a bad one, just get it out of there. Just one layer of it. So side by side I usually fill the pan. Unless they have less cherries in there, which they shouldn't. Okay. There is one. You see, this is the one that I call bad. It looks like there's something on it, so I won't use that. Oops. I think they are putting less cherries into these cans. See? Looks like we don't have really enough. I'm gonna have to write to them because it's been always the 3 cans and it would fill the whole thing. So we're going to make sure that this will still be okay by moving them around. There. But normally, I guess I would have to tell you now to use more than 3 cans. Get 4 cans. Because that's what they did to us. Okay. Now I have the sugar measured out here, 3/4 to 1 cup or so. Just go and sprinkle that on too. Maybe we get it from the sides so it would work. There. There, evenly. Have to go back again. We have more here. I probably won't use it all since we have less cherries. Won't make a difference. There we go. That's it. Yeah. Can be a little more. Oops. Now, if something like this happens, don't worry about it. Just kind of get it around. There. Okay. This is done. I'm gonna place it in the front here while I'm rolling out the other. Have some flour in here again. Flour the board. A little bit of flour on this too. There. And then we roll it again. As we're doing this, again, remember to put kind of a pressure, even pressure on it. It will roll out a little easier, and this is going to be the top for it, so we just need to have exactly the size to cover it. It's I think it rolls out about something like between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch thickness. Let me see how this fits. Okay, I think if I mend it, it will do just fine. Okay. Now I need a little more flour. It's not going to stay. It's going to stick to the rolling pin. We'll be back after I roll this out and put it on the cherries. I rolled out the dough, so this is going to go on the top. Before I do that, I'm going to sprinkle the top of the cherries with a bit of cinnamon, again as evenly as I did with the sugar. This just helps the flavor a little bit. If you have to squeeze this box, then squeeze it a little. That's okay. Sometimes it doesn't come out on its own. Need to have a little boosting. It just helps the flavor. Alright, now we're gonna do the same thing as we did before. Put the rolling pin on, and then lift it up and roll, 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 roll. And then you go and you unroll. There. Voila! Now, if you need to adjust it a little and pull on it a little, that's fine. It won't make much difference. When it's done, you're gonna cut these ends up, and those are my favorite parts. They actually are very nice in taste. Okay? Remember, we used only one egg yolk. We didn't use the whole egg. So I beat up this egg white, and we're going to be frugal, and we're going to use this on the top, which will help the coloring of the pastry. Now, I suppose we could put you could use probably a little bit of sugared water to do this. That would add some more sugar to it though, so I don't know. I think it has enough sugar to just do it as is. And then after I'm finished with this will go into the oven that I preheated at 400 degrees, and I'm going to check it in about 30 minutes to make sure that the bottom of it is baked too. Check your oven and adjust it accordingly. I usually have to set it 50 degrees lower because mine is too hot. And you don't want it to burn, but you do want it to bake. So the way to test it, whether it's done, is that you hold it with a pot holder, 2 pot holders actually, and shake it. And if it moves on the bottom after 30 minutes of baking at this temperature, it's usually done. So we're gonna be ready for that, and we'll put this in the oven now. Jó étvágyat kívánunk! Good appetite!